All right, welcome everybody. This is the pilot episode of Nerds and Words. This is where we talk about nerd stuff and we talk about word stuff. My name's Chase,
My name's Kevin.
and we're just two bros, two states, so that way it's not gay.
Yeah, we're 2 states away.
Two
A
states away,
little more than 5 feet, right?
just a little bit. Um, every podcast, we're going to give you guys a word. That's going to be part of the Nerds and Words, the words part. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about nerd stuff, just whatever comes to mind. We're not really here to. You shut up, Kevin. I'm doing a
What
good
is,
job.
what is she doing?
Who?
She's just staring at the floor.
Bruh, your dog's possessed. That's a
Go ahead.
great pilot
Continue.
episode.
No, keep it in. That's hilarious. Keep going.
Uh, we don't take things too serious here. We're mostly just here to have fun. Maybe talk about some relatable stuff, and hope you guys enjoy it too. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'll be fun. I think as long as we're having fun, I think maybe it'll be enjoying for them to listen to.
yeah, and if not, like you said earlier, we can just look upon this when we're old and gray and be like, "Who was that guy?"
What were we thinking? All
Well,
right,
I
so
can go ahead and tell you that I'm not thinking usually ever.
yeah, that's a problem. So why don't you tell them what the word is, man? What's today's word?
Today's word is make it pop up here, Kevin. Struggle.
Oh, okay. Let me just get right on that.
Oh, okay. I
I can do
thought
that.
you had
I can.
thought
No,
you
I
had
can do that.
wizard powers,
No, I can. I can make it just pop up
but
right there.
it's struggle, which is I think something everybody can relate to these days.
Absolutely.
Like I work at Walmart, so struggling is part of the job description.
I work at a chicken plant, a food processing plant. And while my job is not to work with the chicken, I do smell it all day long. So a little bit of a struggle
What
there.
what do you do then if you don't work with the chicken?
No, I'm the IT guy. So I'm the a manufacturing systems administrator. So really filling in the nerd slot there for nerds and words. But uh yeah, so I work on the computers all day. It's actually where they cook the chicken. So they don't kill the chicken at the plant I work at. This is where they bring in the raw chicken and they cook it. But but yeah, the smells are pretty rough. Cook side smells good. Smells like chicken nuggets over there, but like the raw side's not so great.
So you run cybersecurity for chicken nuggets. All right, I got you.
Yep. Keep them down on nuggets fresh, you know what I mean?
If you could oversimplify your job, what do you do?
I do the computes.
I uh I get I put stuff on a shelf and then get yelled at for putting stuff on a shelf. So
When I worked at Walmart, that's what happened. Can we talk about
we're
Thomas for a minute and how much of a jerk that man was?
just gonna name drop. Is that what we're doing now?
We're not gonna give last names.
I hope he's watching.
I hope he's watching. The odds that man's watching our podcast is pretty slim to none. But if we're gonna bash anybody, it should be Thomas.
Well, yeah, he was not a good person.
I remember we met in the meat department in Walmart. We were both. It was a summer job for me. But,
It
I
was a
wasn't there long.
survival job for me.
I wasn't there long. I was there for 3 months because of Thomas, believe it or
Yeah,
not.
he got
So we
fired.
did he? I didn't even know that.
I was talking about you.
I didn't get fired. I quit. I mean, I guess you could say what they did to me was fired. I left
They-
because they wouldn't give me hours because the system was manually giving us our hours. So, we had these people that worked at Walmart that were in different departments, but they didn't have their own department. So they would end up being put into random department schedules and taking up the hours that are allotted for that department. And so when the system was left alone to do what it had to do, those people were required to get their full-time hours, but I was not. So I would go look at the schedule and it'd be like 10 hours for a week. And obviously that's not enough. That's not even worth coming into work hardly. So I would go to Thomas, our manager, who was supposed to fix it. And he'd be like, yeah, I'll fix it. I'll fix it. Never fixed it. So then I go to the big dog. I go to the plant manager. I'm like, I'm going to get this fixed. His name was,
Plant manager now.
or store manager. I'm so used to my job. I'm gonna say plant manager, the store manager. But I go to talk to this guy, I don't even remember his name off the top of my head, but I go talk to him and I'm like, hey, this is what's going on. I'm not trying to say so and so is not doing their job. I'm just saying that this is the issue I'm having. The system is not giving me hours because they're letting it do it automatically, and I'm not able to get hours for work. He goes to my boss at the time and says, hey, we need to get this fixed for Kevin so we can have some hours. And he's like, oh, yeah, you should have come to me. I would have fixed it right away. And I'm like, uh huh, okay. Well, he fixes it that time, and then it goes right back to our regularly scheduled program the next week, and then I get no hours again. So I was like, all right, I give up. I quit. I left and went to work at the Fresh House. Is where I went to go.
Oh yeah,
I probably
I
shouldn't
remember
say
you. I
name
remember
of
you
town.
leaving because then you went and washed dishes and left me there to rot.
I did go to wash dishes, but then I went from dishwasher to fry cook to grill cook to doing basically everything in the kitchen, which is pretty cool.
It was almost like working at Cookout, but not at Cookout.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to reminisce about cookout.
Why? I love Cookout. I wish there was one here.
Cookout's great. I don't mind Cookout. It's working there that I mind.
Okay, so for everybody that doesn't know what the restaurant Cookout is, it's usually like a southern type restaurant. Um, well, when I say southern type, I mean it's usually in the South. Northerners
I
don't
think it's
like it.
based out of the Carol. I don't know if it's based out of Florida or the Carolinas.
I want to say it's based out of the Carolinas. I'm not going to fact check myself. I'm just going to say that on the internet and hope it's true. But
Drop it in the
it's
comments if he's wrong.
they serve food that you would find at a cookout, and it's dang tasty. However, your good friend over Kevin used to work at one, and he has still not gotten his soul back from that place.
I actually worked there twice. I went one time, worked for about a year, and then came back after working multiple jobs, including Walmart and the Fresh House, and then I ended up going to work at the Cookout again. Only that time I went in and I did a really good job. Like I was killing it. I was closing. I was doing everything. I had matured a lot and grown a lot I mean, as an employee, and just was able to go in and actually do a good job. Didn't make it any better though. It still sucked.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I can't give you flack. I've been to Walmart 3 times just because of the curveballs that life has thrown and hit me in the head with. So,
It happens. That I
I would
think that strongly resembles that goes with the word struggle.
oh, yes, absolutely. Um, there's plenty of struggle, especially right now. You know, there's the hurricanes in Florida, there's,
Mm.
rain in my house, which is not comparable to the hurricanes of Florida, but struggle is
Dude,
perspective.
the storm that came through yesterday. So I teach youth at my church, and so I had like 5 kids with me yesterday, and we were in there doing our lesson, and it wasn't even raining. We got to church and it was like sunny outside, right? And so a lot of people had their windows down, and we go in, we're doing the lesson, and it starts thundering. I'm like, oh man, that's probably maybe we should go out there and roll people's windows up since they're in service. And so we'll go out there and be nice. As long as they have their keys in the car, we'll roll their windows up for them. There was a few of them, so we started doing that. But as we started doing that, the bottom fell out. It started raining, and I swear I'm not even kidding. I look across the road. It's less than 100 yards away. Lightning strikes down. I see the strike come down, hits a tree, and it's on it for like 7, 8 seconds, and it was exploding. I saw the white from the lightning, but I saw the red and orange from the flames. It hit a tree. It looked like, and I think a member of the church sent me a picture later today showing me what it looked like. It had full blown destroyed that tree. I could feel it in the ground, like in my feet. I could feel it hitting the ground. That's how hard it was. Everybody in the church freaked out because it also somehow tied into the electrical system at the church, was flashing the lights, and the sound system was going haywire. That was off of
Dang.
just a little taste of the storm that's coming through. It's rough.
Yeah, we got a bunch of rain here today. Just kinda came out of nowhere, and, well, I forgot to put the trash out, so boy got a shower.
Struggle, right?
It was okay because the neighbors watched. It was a grand time.
One time when I was a kid, my punishment for doing something wrong or not doing something that I was supposed to do was to have to take the trash out um, in the cold of winter in the rain with no shirt on.
No shirt on.
No shirt on.
But Kevin, we've been friends a long time, and you've told me some stories. Um, for some reason, most of them involve you not wearing a shirt. So
Name one other story that I've told you that involved me not wearing a shirt.
listen, man, there's stories that I could tell, but I will not tell on this podcast because I don't want that out on the internet for you.
I appreciate it.
You're, you're welcome. I'm glad I could do you that favor. Kevin, nerd stuff. Have you done anything nerd related this week?
This week, yeah, so I'm currently enrolled in school. I'm trying to get my bachelor's degree in network engineering and security, specifically aligning with Cisco and their certifications. So this week I've been studying for. I'm doing a certification that's really not even at my level. I'm doing an A plus certification, but it's part of the classes I'm taking, so I have to get it. So this week I've been studying for that, and that's been about the nerdiest thing I've done this week.
We are definitely on two ends of the spectrum because I left work early to go buy new Funko Pops.
Hey, that's a better end of the spectrum for me. I'm all about some Funko Pops. In my recent separation and divorce, I ended up having to get rid of all mine because I did not have room for them in the new apartment. So whenever I do get a house, I have to start over, but it's gonna be epic.
Listen, I'm going to say this, and I can say it confidently. Collectibles are better than first wives. I can
If
say that
there's
because
a,
I too was married, and she made me get rid of once before, and she made me get rid of my collectibles because. Oh,
I'm gonna go ahead and just pencil that in as the title of this episode.
yeah, please do. Collectibles are better than
Collectibles are
first
better
wives.
than first wives.
Listen, if you're listening and you have, your first wife, first husband, whatever the case may be, and they treat you absolutely phenomenal, congratulations. You hit the jackpot on your first try. Some of us aren't so lucky,
No, we're not. No, we're
but
not.
that's okay because it made us stronger and put more collectibles on the wall.
Yeah,
So,
I had to sell mine, but I'm gonna get more. Trust me, I'm definitely gonna get more. I've actually been collecting books lately, um, because
kind of book.
randomly, like books, like sci-fi fantasy books, because early last year, I started reading for the first time in my life. I think the last book I read was Killing Mr. Griffin in ninth grade.
Kevin's just now learning how to read once again.
Just not figuring it
Um,
out. So
yeah,
if I use
I
dumb
got
words,
him.
that's why.
I got you. I'm glad you're using that hooked on phonics I got you for Christmas.
Thank you, Rick. But
uh,
but yeah,
Book books, okay, that's good. I
so I
mean,
got just a handful, nothing too crazy. But I started getting some books, and I got about I don't know 10, 15 on the shelf. I don't have the room to get too many more here, but as I move out of this tiny apartment, I'll eventually begin to build the collection back up of all the things I like to collect.
are
Let me
you
tell you the struggle, man. Selling a comic book collection in a hurry was a struggle because do you know you have to deal with when you're in a struggle and you're in a rush?
nobody wants to buy anything you have ever had ever.
I had to deal with a vendor.
Oh, oh,
I had to deal with a vendor, and I'm not gonna name drop this guy, but I'm gonna tell you right now, I will never buy or deal with this man ever again because of how he treated me in this transaction. I so I have been collecting for the better part of 6 years and selling and buying. So I didn't have everything I've had the entire time. If I did, my collection would have been awesome. But I got rid of a bunch of stuff just because I do this thing where I hyperfixate on things. So when I fixate on one thing, I end up selling things from the hobby I'm not focused on to fund that hobby, and then I end up selling things from that hobby to fund the other hobby, and I
Yep.
go back and forth, and I can't keep anything. It's a problem. But
It's
what
like
I did
several
have,
different new collections every chance you get.
absolutely. So, but if what I did have was probably worth the better end of $1,500 to $2,000, I would say roughly. Just depends on the high end. I'd say $2,000. This man, he went through all the boxes. I was trying to show him what I thought were the key pieces or the things that were worth something. He would shrug them off every time they came up because he was trying to devalue them to me. I could tell what
Mm.
he was doing. I knew he was like, "Oh yeah, I ain't nothing." I'm like,
Uh,
I'm showing you something of value, and you're doing that, so I know what you're doing. I'm not stupid, but okay. And we got through. I got to this one book, just a book I liked that I was trying to talk to him about because he's a dude who deals with comic books. I just assumed that he liked them too and might want to talk about it. He immediately shrugged it off, said, "That's not worth anything." I'm like, I didn't say it was worth anything. I just thought it was cool. I was just trying to talk to you about it. But all right, never mind. Forget that. We go through it, and he said, "What do you want for the collection?" And I'm talking about we're looking at 6, 7 short boxes full, and two of which were full of Spawn books. And I don't know what you guys may know about Spawn, but Spawn is actually a lot of his books are super valuable. Not super valuable like hundreds of dollars. There are some like that, but the ones I mean, they're worth more than your average bulk. If you have
comic
Spawn
book,
bulk,
yeah.
it's probably worth more. I had a bunch of old school Spawn stuff and some of the new Spawn stuff. Like I had a bunch, and I had some really valuable stuff, and I know for a fact I had at least one or two books in the collection that was worth 150, $200, and that's not crazy, but that's a lot for just a comic book, right?
Yeah.
And I was going through and showing him the stuff, and he was like, "What do you want for the collection?" And I knew he was a vendor, so I knew what I was getting into. I just needed cash and needed the stuff out of my way because I did not have room in the apartment for it. There's the dog again, like just staring at the floor. I don't know what she's doing, but but I ended up just trying to I even lowballed myself. I was like, "Oh, man, I'd really like to get 400 at least for these books, but I'm gonna lowball myself just to see if he'll go for it." I said, "Man, let me get 250 out of this stuff." He said, "I ain't feeling 250." And I said, "Bro, you lucky I don't body slam you on this parking lot right now." Dude,
Uh,
there's more than $200 in that box alone. I said, you're talking about 6 short boxes. He said, yeah, but they're gonna sit there, they're gonna take forever to sell, and I gotta deal with it, and I gotta do this and that. I said, dude, what do you want to do? What's your offer? And he said, I do 200. I said, dude, give me my $200 and get out of my face. I'm leaving. And he gave me the $200. I gave him the stuff, and I left, knowing that if I had pieced it out, I could have got way more. But I just needed the space. I literally didn't have the room to put them anywhere, and I was running out of space in my apartment. It was driving me crazy. So I was in a pinch, in a struggle. I had to do that.
and that's a collector's heartbreak right there, is letting go something that you've accumulated and spent time
Years.
on, and somebody's like, "I'll give you change for it."
Yeah, because like I mean, he's a reseller. He does not care about those books at all. All he cares
No.
about is getting more money out of them. And I'm
Yep.
like I put, I looked through boxes for hours finding these ones I wanted, and then like I went every week or every other week to the comic book shop to pick up my list and stuff like that. Like it was a lot of time and money put into that list, and I got almost nothing out of it.
Yeah,
So,
and that's I think people can kind of relate. They may not be able to relate to collectibles, but they can relate that to, dealing with people. They put a lot of time, they put a lot of effort into helping somebody, and then they get crapped on.
yeah, that
Boy, that
definitely
sucks.
that does suck.
But that's part of being a collector. Like you have your big scores, you have your down times, you have your down, you know, and it's just like I've got a huge Funko collection, and there's some of them that's really valuable, like almost closer to $1,000 a piece, and I'm like, I could sell those and pay some bills. I mean, I'm not like losing my house or anything, but
Right.
I can put myself ahead. But you know how long it took me to get those pieces? Like,
Oh yeah, there's definitely some key pieces that I wish I hadn't got rid of. Like I wish I would have held on to like a couple things because they
yeah,
were not because of their value, but because of how valuable they were to me and how like it took so long to find them or to get them or to finally get my hands on them. And when I did, and I let them go, and I'm like, I can think of one comic book in particular that I bought I think 3 times in total, and every time I get it, like something would come up and I need money, and I'd sell it, and then immediately start trying to find another copy of it because I wanted another copy of that book. It was like one of my favorite books ever, and truly, whenever I do have the opportunity to maybe collect comic books again, I'm definitely going to go after that book first. One of my favorite books of all time. If I might put a picture of it up on here, is Thanos Wins, Thanos number 13. It's the first appearance of the Cosmic Ghost Rider, which is, for those who don't know, Frank
Oh,
Castle as the Ghost Rider, which is just so cool. The concept is so cool. Uh,
I
it's
actually
not a
remember you. I remember you getting, I think, that copy, and you just like completely fangirled over it. I remember that day,
it's so cool.
and
Like
then you
it's
got rid of it.
yeah, and that whole so anything that author is writing, his name is Donny Cates. Anything that man is writing comic book wise for the longest time, I was a super huge fan of. Anything he wrote was just gold. Um, so I was all about it, and he actually was writing characters that I cared about and that I liked, and so it was just super cool. And having to get rid of that stuff that sucked. It was a struggle.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you how many times I've started a Pokemon card collection and hyper fixated on it like you did, and bought like everything I ever wanted, and then sold it off because I needed there was a new Funko that come out or it was super expensive, and it was like, well, which collection do I pick? I
Right.
always pick the Funkos though, um,
Hmm.
unless they start taking up room. Which, when you have about as many as I have, which is over 600 now,
Bro, somebody's got to struggle. And it's in
yeah,
the
it's my
opposite end of
wallet.
the spectrum.
It's my wallet. It's my walls, the beams of my house trying to support all.
The support beams are struggling, bro, trying to hold up them Funko Pops.
Uh, yeah, I mean, but now that I'm working a different job and I have a big boy house payment, the struggle has shifted from which pops do I want to, well, I should probably buy food. So
Dude,
it's a different, like, it's still it was a struggle that went higher up on the struggle tier because now it's not even in the same question as what it used to be.
yeah, I'm with you there, 100%. I do think I have a positive note on having to get rid of stuff and having to start over with collections because I learned this through probably a collection and a hobby that we've both had at one point or another, and that's Yu-Gi-Oh. We both used to play. We both used to. That's actually one of the things we first bonded over when we became friends, right? When we met
Yeah,
in Walmart
we
in the
we were
freezer.
both we were both kind of awkward, but one of us mentioned Yu-Gi-Oh, and the other one just
It was like, what?
flung. We're like, "Excuse me, what did you say?"
What did you say? What did you say?
That's something that's something I know things about.
I know that.
Yeah,
But so I've over the dude, if I had my Yu-Gi-Oh collection from every card I've ever owned, from start to finish, if I had the entire thing, bro, I could retire early. Like the
yeah.
stuff I had when we were kids, when I was
Listen,
a kid,
listen.
dude.
Not even the cards. If I just had the money I spent on booster packs, and I'm not talking about just Yu-Gi-Oh, I'm talking about
Any
Transformers, I'm talking about Magic, I'm talking about Yu-Gi-Oh, I'm talking about, I don't even care. Pokemon, if
dude,
you give me a lump sum of that money,
in Magic the Gathering, when Dominaria Remastered came out, I think I bought like $700 worth of booster packs.
bro, you could have bought every card you wanted in this.
I did get every card I wanted. Think I got like 3 copies of Sylvan Library full art foil out of those boxes, which was amazing. But no, what I learned with the Yu-Gi-Oh was as I bought and sold collections and like sold off my stuff, I get out of the hobby, I would sell all my stuff or get rid of it, and then at some point or another, because it was just one of those core things from my childhood, so I would always be drawn back to it in some way. I think I finally got to the point where I'm kind of done with it, and I haven't played it in forever, and I think it's gotten to the point the game's so convoluted and complicated now that it's not what it was for me
No,
at least.
no, it's I go first, I win. That's
basically.
it.
Did you win the die roll? We can go ahead and go to game 2 if you want.
Yeah, like that. There's no fun in it anymore. There's no camaraderie. There's no competition. It's just
No.
I have more money, therefore I have better cards, therefore I win.
Yeah, Necron's Burning Abyss was the last good format. I stand by that. Uh,
I'll agree with that, but I also don't want to agree with that because I was extremely poor during that format, so therefore I always got whipped in that.
I had a fully built first ed Necros deck, and let me tell you, that deck whipped. That deck did some work. They knew what they were doing when they made that deck, which was so cool.
I think that was peak Yu-Gi-Oh. Like
It was. That Shadal
now
when Shadal's first came out, man. Oh god.
now it's just bleh.
It's not what it was, that's for sure. I'm sure that people who play it still enjoy it. But what I
I don't
learned
even
is I wait,
I don't even
what?
think they enjoy it.
They probably don't. I think nobody hates Yu-Gi-Oh more than Yu-Gi-Oh players.
That's probably true.
What I learned as I bought and sold collections is, and what I've come to find out that I enjoy is like starting over. Obviously, it sucks because you're like, man, I used to have that. Man, I used to have that. Now it's this much money. And man, I used to have that. But there's kind of this cool feeling when you're starting over. You kind of start fresh and you know what you want and you know what you're after and kind of building that back up and that journey of building it back up and getting what you want back in your collection. It's kind of fun and I kind of enjoy that aspect. So that is one kind of, I don't know what you would call that, kind of
Upside.
the upside to it, if you had to look for one, of that
Listen,
struggle.
as a collector, as a Funko collector, it the biggest, like, I would say aspect to collecting it is the hunt.
Yeah,
I can go online and just buy whatever, and that's cool. It shows up in my house. But going out to a city that you've never been to and kind of
yeah,
exploring the area and going to these little nerd shops that are like in the holes in the wall that have great customer service reviews, but nobody knows about them because, well, they're nerd shops.
right.
And just meeting people and then going and trying like food you've never tried, just you turn it into a whole experience. And I kind of like that aspect of it.
Yeah.
Um, like when I do sell some, I'm like, well, maybe I can go hunting for this again because it's valuable, but it's not rare, so rare that I can't find it in a shop somewhere.
I th-
And
I agree with that.
I like that aspect. And I agree there is some upside for when a collector has to get rid of some of their collection if their heart's still in it, kind of like how we are. I sold some Funkos just so I could pay some bills, and you've gotten rid of card collections so that way you had room or you had to pay some bills. If our heart's still in it, then we always find a way to still enjoy it,
Absolutely. I
and
think I think
I think that's good.
the biggest part, like what you were saying, is like it's not just getting the thing and getting it in your hands. It's like the journey to get to the thing. It's like what
Yes,
the experience of going to get it and finding it. Because you can order anything you want on eBay all day long, just about. I mean, there's certain exceptions, I'm sure, but like for the most part, any collectible you want, somebody's probably got it somewhere and selling it online. You can probably find it. But if you, nothing is better than like finding a deal or finding something on some backwoods collector shop that's in the middle of nowhere and you go in there and you're like, yo, what, they got this thing and it's only this much.
yeah,
I'll never forget, I went to a comic book shop one time and the guy running the shop, he was one of those dudes that like was all about the street guide, the street price guide or whatever that comes out every year.
um, yeah,
He was all about it and I was like, so he didn't even have prices on books. He would just look up the book in the street guide, and that's what the price he would charge for the book. So I remember looking through, and I wasn't seeing anything crazy, but I remember seeing this book that I was like, dude, that's probably a $30 book. I wonder what he's going to charge for it. He looked it up in the street guide, and sure enough, $3.99. I was like, excuse me, $3.99? Yes, please. Bought it real quick.
or every now and then you'll come across a shop where they they dabble in a little bit of everything. They're not really a specialty shop, and so
Mm-hmm.
they'll price something when it comes in, but then that price might shoot up, like its value might shoot up, but they don't go back and recheck stuff. So you might I've there's been plenty of times I've went to little shops and they're like, "Oh yeah, I want $15 for this pop," but it's actually like 140, and I'm like, "Okay, well, yeah." I'll buy that.
I'm actually surprised that a lot of shops like that haven't moved exclusively to look up the price when they sell the item. The reason I say that is because in the age that we're in with like the internet, I think the trading card games we're talking about and like comic books and like Funko Pops and anything collectible really, the price of something can change overnight. Like it can be 1 minute you're looking at something that's $15 and the next minute it could shoot down to worthless because they made another one or they reprinted it or remade another one
Yep.
or something comes out that's tied to that thing, or like if in the case of comic books or Funko Pops, a movie comes out that's tied to that character, and all of a sudden that thing shoots up in price, and it can happen overnight over an
Yep.
announcement that's not even legit yet, like it's a rumor. I
Yep.
remember when like the rumors for a movie would come out and comic books prices would immediately shoot up immediately like that minute, and if people would run to eBay to try to find one and buy before people were able to update the prices. And some people, even if you were able to get one, they would like cancel the order,
Yeah, they'd cancel it and then immediately relist it for a higher
relist it
price
for a
because they're
higher
like, "Oh,
price.
I can't get that much. I can get that much more out of it now. So I'm sorry." And you're
Well,
like,
I'm
"You're
not
not
gonna.
sorry. You're just a douche."
This is one more name I don't mind dropping because you know who that reminds me of.
Chad.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
He will
name's
probably
fitting.
see this. He will.
He
Our luck.
probably will.
He will see this, dude. That was you, Chad. I just want you to know. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
drop a last name or where you're at,
yeah,
but that was you. That was you, man.
it was you, and you were a terrible card shop owner.
That's the worst. He
Like,
was the worst.
listen, audience, we
The
don't
worst.
normally we're pretty. We like to think that we're pretty good people, but there's been some mutual people that we've come across that were just not very. They were not good people, and
Agreed.
so if our bashing them makes you uncomfortable, we apologize. But if you'd met these people, you'd probably do the same.
I
They
do
just
agree. I try not to
they
bash people, but the people we're bashing, I promise, they're the worst.
they were. We have so many stories about these people.
This is a
Um,
nerd with some words for these people, but I ain't gonna give it to them.
yeah, we got some words for them, but we won't share those here because probably not appropriate. But yeah, he would. I mean, he did that. I've seen him do that.
I
The card
remember.
price went from $4 to 15, and he was like, "Yeah, I can't charge you that now. I have to charge you more."
So back his thing that I remember the biggest was he liked having guaranteed money tomorrow. So you know what he did? He started doing this thing where he'd open up people a tab. He would
Yep.
outright look for things he knew you wanted, and then be like, "Hey, you want it? You know, just put it on your tab." Because all that you have in a tab meant is that you were guaranteed to owe him money. And what he would do with these tabs, he'd say, "Okay, give me this much every 2 weeks, or give me this much every month, or whatever." However he did it, and it got to the point where he would alter prices of things retroactively. So, like, I remember this card came out that he had three of because he would just buy boxes, sell the singles to us on tabs, and then we would all be paying him money for weeks. And there was a large portion of people doing this, and so it worked for him, so to speak. But it ended up crashing on him because how terrible of a person he was.
Well, yeah.
But
I
this
mean,
card,
because you can't do what he was doing.
I mean, it wasn't even how businesses work. You can't do that. I mean, that'd be like Walmart trying to jack the prices on something for secondhand prices.
Yeah.
But I remember this card, it came out, and I wanted it. He had three copies of it. I wanted it, and they were selling for about $20 a piece. So I said, okay, I'll give you put $60 on my tab and I'll take those three cards. And he was like, okay, deal. Well, then we went to a tournament that weekend where that a deck using that card was doing well. And so that card price shot up. It went up to like 35 a piece, I think. And then he said, oh, by the way, those card prices went up. So now you owe me whatever 35 times three is.
So 105, Kevin.
Thank you.
You're wrong.
I was
Yeah.
gonna. I could do that mental math. I was choosing not to. It's not that I'm dumb. I promise.
I never once said that about you, buddy.
I'm cutting this part of the.
But yeah, I mean, he did stuff like that all the time. Like he just it was so listeners, if you and watchers, I guess, if you think less of us, we understand. But if if you knew him, you'd think a lot less of him.
I promise you would. I promise you would. It is crazy some of the situations I remember happening at that store, and it's also crazy his situation. I'm not going to put his business out there because it's not my place, but he had some circumstances come up in his life that it was kind of crazy that he could even own a store. Like it's just kind of bizarre to
Well,
me.
I think there was a lot of hoops he was supposed to jump through, and
He just didn't.
well, he just didn't. He went underneath them.
I specifically remember you helping him. I remember you going to help him and offering him sound advice that would have helped him keep that store open. And he just chose to selfishly ignore your advice because he was looking in terms of the quick as opposed to the long term, and it did him in. He ended up losing the store.
Yep, I actually went and worked for him, and I remember I gave him a very like the deal was so in his favor, it wasn't funny because my love for that shop was more than my pride.
Mm.
I don't know if you remember how much he was paying me a week, but it was $75.
Bro, I did not know that.
Yeah,
I knew you were helping him for the cheap, but I didn't know it was that cheap.
yeah, it was that
'Cause you
cheap.
were there all the time. But
I
I mean,
was.
dude, I mean, we can talk all the bad about him, and it would all be true. But man, that store, like the people we met there, I mean, we met one of our, I mean, for a while, one of our best friends. He kind of ditched us. we
Everybody
met
leaves in this life, Kevin. Sometimes it's just earlier than you expect.
we met a lot of awesome people there, and we would hang out there. We would have the best time. It was just like the coolest place to hang out in town because there was no place like that nearby. I mean, the closest place was in a big town further out, and it was kind of
Yeah,
crazy.
it was good because it and the way it was set up, it kinda helped, like, the younger kids too, and it had so much potential.
It
It
did.
was poor decision making on management's part, and the funny thing is, I told him that I took classes in college for business. I kinda knew what I was talking about, and he didn't care. He was more about the money than he was about the success,
He was
and
well,
that's what
he
did
was in
me.
the hole from what I understand. He was so behind. Man, this dude was the definition of struggle though. He was he was
Yeah,
like praying somebody would come in and buy something so he could pay the light bill at the end of the day. Like that's how bad it was. And it honestly he would do people so wrong that he couldn't keep customers. Like I remember this customer coming in and they had probably because I seen the box as they were walking in. They had $500 worth of stuff. And they were like, "Yeah, I just want to see what I could get for this stuff." He's like, "Best I could do is probably $60 for all that," and they went for it, and I was like, "Dude, you could have easily given them $200 and still made buku bucks, made profits off of that." And
yeah.
he's like, "Yeah, but now I got even more profit," and like he just didn't see anything wrong with that. He had no problem ripping people off. It was just kind of, I don't know, man.
He
Mm,
was kinda like Scrooge McDuck, but without the money.
yeah,
He was just Scrooge.
he really was the worst. Like no joke.
But yeah, I mean, I loved that place. I loved that shop. I love the people that I met there. But you can't run a business into the ground and then be upset about why it's failing.
No.
Actually, that's false because it wasn't even a business. He didn't have a business license.
There was so many things about that setup I had questions about, especially when he got into. So there, at one point in the stage of his store, he got into this new building on. You know what I'm talking about? The one close to Burger King.
Yeah, I remember that. I never went to that one.
I went over there one time. Our mutual friend that I talked about that we don't really talk to that much anymore. He was still going over there at that time, but the like the setup was like he had a sign and everything, so I don't know how he got by without having a license. Like I don't understand. Like he had everything set up like it was an actual storefront, and it was more professional in that building than it was in the one where he started for sure.
I think he could have done well if he would have just went about it the right way, listened when people told him stuff, and most of all, built his customer. rapport with people because that was I think probably the biggest thing. Once word got around that he was cheating people, it was over.
He had
There was no coming back.
he had a loyal group of people who were there regularly. I'm talking about people like you, me, a bunch of our friends that we had made, and people that we knew that were there daily. And now some of them didn't have money, like they just didn't have it. But for the ones who did, they'd have bought stuff from him if he was any kind of fair. If he was
Yeah,
any kind of, he could have brought snacks in there and would have and up the price just a bit to make profit on it, and they'd have bought it from him because they were just so happy to have a place to go.
yeah,
Like I'm looking back at some of these kids, I feel bad because like some of them I know are doing okay now, but some of them, man, like they didn't have anything else. All they had was an escape at that store to play cards with their friends. That was it, and
yeah,
it's sad what he turned it into,
yeah. Because it got to a point where people wouldn't come in and buy stuff unless I was working.
which is bad.
They'd be like, "Hey, Chase, can I get this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "All right, I don't get paid till tomorrow, so you work tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "All right, I'll get it tomorrow." But if I said no, they'd be like, when's the next time you work?"
Well, no one
I'm
wanted
like,
to deal with him, man. That's the deal. Like it was to the point I was hearing bad things about him from people who I didn't know even knew him.
"Yeah." People and I think that was probably, like, the most eye-opening thing because 'cause you're like, "Okay, yeah, yeah, you're gonna hear bad things from people that have experienced, the shop and what goes on there." But then when you meet people that's never been there but know of him, yeah, that's pretty bad.
It was pretty rough, but yeah, that whole time period, man. If our lives weren't a struggle back then, I don't know what was.
Listen,
Dealing with
man, we
broke
did. We struggled back then.
broke down cars, late night shifts or late shifts at the Walmart seafood freezer, and
Man, I
oh
remember when
man,
I worked 2 full-time jobs after I think it was after that, I went back to the Albemarle Walmart, and I was working 5 AM to 2 PM at Walmart and then 3 to midnight at a BP.
I remember you doing that. I remember you working all that because I mean, the struggle was so real back then, man.
Yeah, I about died. Like, all jokes aside, I couldn't function. Like, my brother had to eventually, he had to call off work, tell him I wasn't coming for, like, 2 days because I couldn't move. He had to, like, carry me to the bathroom, I mean, and then he put me on the floor and told me to do it myself. But, it was so bad, and when I look back on it, I'm like, "You know, I'm struggling now, but I'm not that kinda struggling."
Yeah, I think honestly, I think we'll always struggle in some form or fashion, but the struggles today are just they do not compare to the struggles of back then.
No, no. I remember being like, "Yeah, I got a couple dollars, for a booster pack or whatever," or buying 10-cent commons because we couldn't afford, the good
Anything
stuff.
better? Yeah. I I remember getting a taste of what it was like to have money because of that whole tab situation that Chad had set up because I could just get whatever I wanted from him and then pay him like $20 every.
Which, I mean, which was nice
Yeah,
because
that part was cool.
you built trust with your customers, and they built trust with you, and I remember that, but then I remember getting too much of a taste and having quite a tab. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that was
At the end of it, he harassed me because he came to me. I didn't make much money back then, and after paying my bills, which weren't that many, but I had enough after paying my bills and putting gas in the car to get to work and to get around, I didn't have any money. So I had told him when I started the whole tab, I was like, I can do $20 every 2 weeks, and he agreed to that. Well, at one point he came to me, and I think I owed him the better end of $800 worth at that point, maybe a little less. I don't remember. It may have been 5 or 600. Honestly, I don't remember because I just not a time period I look back to often with fond memories. But it was a chunk of change. But he kept harassing me. He said, "Dude, you got to give me more money." I said, "Dude, we agreed. $20 every 2 weeks. That's all I can afford." He said, "You got to give me more. I can't live off of what I'm getting." And he was going crazy, and I said, I'll tell you what. I said, if I just give you my whole collection, so basically anything I've gotten from you is in that, plus all the other stuff I've bought, because I bought stuff whenever I had the ability. I bought stuff, packs, decks, whatever,
Yeah,
and he agreed. And so I just gave him my whole collection just to get him off my back because I was so tired of dealing with him.
I remember that. I think it was one of the first times you actually got rid of your collection in its entirety.
Yeah, it was. I mean, ever since before when I was a kid, I did it multiple times. I would get into it as a kid, buy, get, and have a collection of maybe a 10 or 2 worth, which as a kid is a lot, you know.
Yeah.
And then I would give them away or be out of it and sell them or whatever, and then get back into it. It would take nothing to get me back into it, dude. I'd see an episode of this show come up on TV. I'm like, I want to play that again. So I'd like, go buy some more cards. And it was that I remember starting over so many times as a kid, and that's what makes me feel excited to start over on some of my hobbies that I have now, some of the stuff I collect now. So it's gonna be kind of fun to kind of build back up and get back to where I was. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah. And I think that's I wouldn't say it's a negative quality, but it might be a hindering quality is that a lot of the collectors I know, we have that switch where we're like, nope, and then anything that reminds you of that, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember I used to have a lot of fun doing that, and then that switches back on, and you're like, well, go dive in head first and just do all over again.
yeah, dude. When I fixate on stuff, it's bad. So like, I'll give you a prime example. Just recently, I saw there was a commercial for a new Mario game coming out this year. And that's a relatively big deal because they just don't release Mario games like that anymore. Like, and they're releasing a
Yeah,
new 2D Mario game. And I had just earlier this year sold my Switch because I wasn't using it. So I was like, I'm gonna sell the Switch. I don't need it. It's just sitting here. It's just money. So I sold it for a lot less than I probably should have because again, the struggle. But got saw that commercial and I just like got fixed. I was like, oh, I gotta find a way to get a Switch. I'm gonna see if I can sell this, see if I can trade this, see if I can do this to get one. And I still don't have one, but at this point, I've calmed down off of that because I realized what I was doing. I'm like, man, this is all I'm thinking about. I'm at my parents' house looking on eBay trying to find deals. I'm sitting here with my girlfriend on the couch and I'm like looking on OfferUp, seeing if I can find somebody willing to trade with me. I'm like, I am obsessed. This is a problem.
yeah. Like
I'm like,
I just started collecting the Magic the Gathering Funkos, and I just been scrolling. My wife's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "What do you think I'm doing?" And she's like, I know what you're doing." And I was like, "Okay,
at least it's not your first wife.
no, that, that's true." But I don't want to call her my second wife. I want to call her the wife.
Yeah,
She's the
the
wife,
wife. That's what I think. I think when you find the one, it's the one.
the
And
one.
the first wife is actually we call her the wrong wife.
The she, they say marriages are like pancakes. You just gotta throw the first one out.
Hey, I applaud anybody who makes it through the first one. I mean, if you can, if you found the right person, and you found your soulmate or the person you're supposed to be with, and you're happy and your first go around, you didn't have to go through a divorce or a separation like that. That's great. More power to you. I am so
Oh yeah,
happy for you.
yeah.
Because let me tell
Just
you,
you
the
know,
struggle is real. But what can you
yeah,
do? What can you do?
yeah. I mean, we could talk about that. The struggles of divorce. I
Dude,
mean,
it's
I've got
I'm not even done with
stories.
mine. That's the problem, man. I'm not even done with mine. I'm sitting
No,
here wondering if I'm gonna be sued for alimony somehow, even though she left me.
I mean, given the way the world works, probably.
That's what I'm saying. Like I got a lot of things that should be in my favor to not have to worry about that, but you know how the court system is.
Yeah, I think like the separation and the heartache, the sadness. I went through a very deep depression when I went through my divorce. Um, I won't speak of you know what happened. Both of us were in the wrong, and it blew up, became something bigger than both of us. Um, but just the transitioning. from the life that I had, where I had a nice home and I had a few cats. I was starting up my collections, and then going to living in a house with three other people and only having a room to myself, which at the time it didn't suck because I knew the person and he was an absolute savior to me. Um, but it was just like, man, I'd worked so hard to move up this ladder, and now all the rungs are just broke and the ladder's in pieces and on fire and blaming me. So, it just going from the life that you've been chasing to the life now that you have to kind of just piece together. Um, and then the struggle between that and money, having money struggles and having mental struggles at the same time is well, it's my own. It's I think it's a personal hell of anybody really.
It's a
And
recipe for disaster for sure.
yeah, because if you aren't even remotely prepared to handle either one, let alone both at the same time, I can understand why some people give up. I can understand why some people just don't fight it anymore. They just say, you know what, it is what it is. And I was one of those people.
Yeah.
I had took too much at work, just quit my job. So then I was adding even more struggle on top of that because now I had to pay bills and I had to find a job. And at the time, I was also going to school, so I had no hair, and it was just it was not. It was definitely not the ideal situation. It was not some place that I thought I would see myself when I finally got that big house or I got that promotion at work. You're sitting on top of the world, but when you fall off the thing, you fall, and
It's
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 just
it's the change. It's like you're saying, being able adapting to the change of what your day to day is was a big part of it. Because like you go from day to day knowing what your tomorrow looks like roughly. I mean, you have the nuances that you don't know of and the small things, but like for the biggest part, you're gonna go work, come home, and do your thing. Like you know what you're doing, and to go from that to not knowing, not only not knowing what tomorrow looks like, but not knowing what the rest of the tomorrows look like because now all your tomorrows have changed.
yep,
And to go from that is really hard to it's really hard to swallow that. It's really hard to it was really hard to accept that and to just say that okay, this is the new, this is now all different than what I had planned on it being.
yeah,
So that was a struggle for sure. That was a struggle for sure. I think if you're not meant to be though, then you're not meant to be. And I think I'm learning in my current relationship now that we weren't. And it's more evident now than it has ever been, even through
yeah,
all the negativity and everything. You could take a negative about somebody and say, yeah, see, that's not where we're not meant to be. But I think that that's easy to do. I think that it's the positives I'm saying that weren't there is why I think that we weren't meant to be.
yeah.
I think that's the bigger part. It's not the negatives that were there because that's in everything. If
It's
you
the
just
lack
focus
of
on if you just focus on the negatives, then that's all you got. Like that's all you're gonna see anyway. It's not what was there. It's what wasn't there that's kind of showing me
yeah.
why it wasn't supposed to be like that.
And I think that could be the same said for mine. You know, um, there was effort on both parts, but I think the effort that was given was not put into the correct you know aspects.
Mm,
I think we were both trying, but we weren't trying at the right things, such
right.
as communication or financial, agreements. We made sure we spent time together, but we argued about things that kept us from progressing. And so I think you kind of nailed it. It's not that we had a lot of bad things; it's just that we didn't have a lot of good things. And I think once you if you're in a relationship like that, you might be like, "Yeah, they don't treat me bad. They, we go out and do stuff," but, like, when it comes down to, like, the nitty-gritty of life and there's no support, there's no communication, there's no progression or change or anything that's gonna make both of your lives move forward, then that itself is a major hindrance, and
Absolutely.
that's definitely a struggle because then when you go from having somebody that you think you can count on to having nobody, in some ways it's a positive, but in other ways you're like, well, now it's all on me again.
Definitely an adjustment.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, when you
Definitely.
go from what am I going to eat tonight because you have so many choices in the cabinet to am I going to eat tonight? That's that's a spectrum that, boy, I tell you what, I floated all over that thing.
Dude, it's so funny because I mean, it's not funny, but it's so funny because like, you ever just like, I don't know, look back at a situation and think, wow, that's how I handled that.
I've looked back on many situations and been like, wow, I surprised that I'm alive.
Yeah,
we
I've
we barely made it,
barely got to where we are. That's for sure.
but barely or not, the important thing is we got there.
I agree. I think I think that's important.
It is, and I think my biggest mistake was always thinking that if I didn't have a significant other, I had no support system. I didn't
I
really
was the same.
rely on my I didn't rely on my friends. I didn't rely on my family because, well, we're not going to talk about families.
Not to That's another episode, brother.
That's another episode. But so it was like, oh well, I'm single, so now I have no support system. It's me. I have somebody that's by my side or I have nobody.
I think it's
Um,
easy to make that connection, though. I think it's something I definitely felt the same way.
yeah,
I had a lot of people in my corner, but I didn't care about those people. I wanted somebody at my bedside. I wanted somebody, with me all the time. That kind of support system. What I had, you know what I mean? I wanted what I had, but with somebody else, I guess, or with that person. And I just wanted that, and I didn't have it, and it was a really big adjustment. But it's so easy to make that connection, like you're saying, where you're just like, I don't have that person, so I don't have anything.
yeah, and it actually, my wife now kind of opened my eyes. She's like, I'm always here for you, but you have other people. You may not have quantity, but you definitely have quality people that are willing to help you. And they were there the whole time, but I was stubborn. I grew up having to do a lot on my own, so I was like, well, guess we're just gonna keep doing it on my own then. It's just if we
Yeah,
die, we die. And it took me a lot of soul searching and definitely nudging and just encouragement from my wife that it's not this is life is not a battle that you have to fight alone, even
agreed.
if you feel like you're alone. And
Some people might not be that lucky, but I think we both definitely are, and I think
oh
that
yeah,
a lot of people are, even though they might not think they are. I think that a lot of people are.
because
There's always a support system out there, and even if it's not friends or family, there's always something out there you can lean on.
oh yeah, I mean the number of people like that have helped me that were just complete strangers is is astronomical to me.
Yeah.
Just because they were like, "Yeah, I'll help you," and I'm like, I can't pay you back," and they're like, "That's fine."
I've definitely seen some extreme kindness from strangers before, and it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and sometimes that's all you need is just that little spark, just a little, evidence that somebody other than yourself cares about you.
I remember a really dark time in my past where I was just struggling with everything. I couldn't pay the bills. I couldn't wake up in the morning without feeling terrible. I was just so upset all the time. And I remember specifically it was coming time for my car to be repoed almost because I couldn't make the payment. And I had to go to school that day. I was taking college classes. I went to school and I was there, and the teacher, my networking teacher, he came. He was outside and I met him and I was like, "Hey, how's it going?" He said, "Hey, what's going on?" You look down. And I was like, told him the situation. I was by no means asking for help. I was just kind of venting. And man said, "You wait right here. I'm gonna go get you the money you need so you can make that car payment." And I was like, "What?" I
Yeah.
said, I said, "I beg your pardon." This man just flipped my world upside down in the best way possible because I was preparing myself mentally to just my life be changed. 'Cause I was going to lose my car. I
Yeah.
mean, and that sounds like such an insignificant thing when you think about, life is your car, but like that was how I got from where I lived to school, how I got to work, how I got to my girlfriend's house, how I got to see my friends, anything. I had to drive. I didn't have somebody picking me up or taking me. I had to go there. So like I was preparing myself to my life to change in a very terrible way. And then this man just came to the rescue for no reason other than he said, he had been very blessed and he wanted to share that.
Which is
And
good.
and while we weren't total strangers, I did not know this man other than like him being my teacher and my instructor. I did not connect with him on any way other than how you doing and here's my assignment. Like that was it. Like it's crazy what a kindness like that will do for somebody because it totally changed my perspective on a lot of things, especially at that time in my life.
Yeah. And like I said, that all it takes is that one act to be like, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can get through this. I mean, it may not be the prettiest, but at least
Mm.
now I have hope and faith in myself that it will be done.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I've had a few people like that.
Oh yeah. I feel like we've gone down in the dumps of the negative going through marriage and divorce and the struggles that we feel, and I think that goes along with our word for today, but I think that we want I feel like we as we're moving toward what I think is the last quarter of this podcast, uh I want to maybe shift it into a more positive note of something. So like what is something that you're really looking forward to in you can relate it to nerd stuff or struggles.
I am looking forward to the struggles. That's
What struggles though? What struggles?
all of them. I don't care. I'm not picky.
He said bring it
Give
on.
give me all of them. I'm strong enough. I might
I'm
cry a
not
little
I'm
bit, but
I'm
that's
not
fine.
saying that. I'm not
Uh,
saying that. I'm
Nope,
not strong enough.
you've already opened the door. Thanks for that. Appreciate it.
Pandora doesn't go back in the box.
Um, if I had to say I'm looking forward to anything, I'm really looking forward to getting an email saying that I've got a big boy job that's going to make me a lot more money than where I'm at now, so I can solve some of my struggles.
There you go. I like that. I got a lot of big plans in my life right now that are kind of just now being made. Things that I didn't think would be a part of my life. Things that I'm looking forward to, and I don't want to exactly give details because just I don't know yet. It's not something that I'm ready to throw out there, but I will say that it's going to take a lot of planning and progress on my end and things I need to do, and I'm excited to make that progress and to even if it takes a little bit of a struggle, I'm excited to get through it and to get to where I can accomplish those things. And one of those things is getting through school. One of those things is getting out of debt, things like that, and being able to move in my career in a direction where I'm making more money, and it's not because I'm trying to chase a dollar, make more money. It's just trying to get to that point where I can afford to live. And in
Enjoy
today's
your life.
economy, yeah, today's economy, you got to make some dollars for that. So
You see, I mean, I don't want to. I mean, I wouldn't mind if I was a millionaire because I'd probably give most of it away. But I want to be where I'm able to work and not hate my job, but also I want to get my debt paid down to the point where I don't have to worry about, okay, I get paid. This is what I want. I want to be able to forget when I get paid because I don't need to mark it on a calendar. I
yeah,
don't
I've
need to
never
be
had
looking
that.
forward to it. Be like, oh, look at that, I got paid again. Oh, I still have money in the account. That's the goal. The goal
Yeah,
is to not have to worry about payday because I'm doing fine.
Being able to walk into a store, seeing something cool you want, and it being like, I don't know, 30, $50. Something not crazy, but something like, just a little bit of money,
Something
but be able to
out
see
of
it
the
and just
range.
and you just be like, yeah, I think I'll buy that, and not having to open up your app real quick and make sure, am I going to break the bank account? Like
Yes.
you can just buy it and it not be a concern. Like that's the kind of piece I'm looking for. I'm not trying to buy a Rolls Royce and a $50 million mansion and whatever. I'm not trying to live that lifestyle. I want to have comfort and peace financially for me and my family, and I think
Yeah.
that's
That's
the hope and the dream there.
that's the goal. Like if I want to buy a Funko that just came out and I'm like, oh, cool, order.
Hit that buy button real quick.
Yeah. I don't want to because it gives me such anxiety. Like when I buy lunch at work and then I'm like, well, I better check the count, see how close I am to zero.
Yeah, I'm like that all the time, man. All the
Like
time.
it shouldn't it shouldn't have to be that way.
Especially when I feel like we both work very hard. It's not like we're lazy people and we're just like, oh, you're not trying to work for it. No, we work very hard. It's just like inflation has made it to where everything is so expensive and bills are out the yin yang and our pay is not going up. And it's the worst.
It is. But I know me and you because, we're friends and we're gonna get there. We're
Oh
we're
yeah,
the type we're the type of people that is is are sorry. I'm a writer and I'm still not doing I'm not doing well today. But we are the type of people that we have the capabilities and the drive to do that, to make it come true. And I think that's kind of like what we want to do with this podcast is just kind of like we want to share our struggles and our triumphs and we want people to be able to relate to that, to let them know, hey, you know, everybody's gonna have troubles, but you're not alone. And whatever may come and whatever may go, we're gonna be here with you, talking about well, pretty much everything.
absolutely. I'm excited for it. I think um, we'll get a feel for it and have a little bit better better structure
Yes,
of things as we go forward. We'll learn as
yes.
we go.
Please,
This
listeners and watchers, just realize this is the pilot. We've never done a podcast. I
never
watched
have.
a video on it once, but I switched over to Mario Party because it was boring. But um, and we're not out to try to make a bunch of money. We're just out to try to help people and just talk.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be good.
I do
Um,
too.
I think we're getting pretty close to a stopping point. I don't know how I don't know how we close this thing out. I don't know how we do that.
Well, uh, bye. No, I'm
Bye,
just kidding.
Felicia.
I'm just kidding. Um, I think it's good. So you know, kind of what you're going to get. We're going to pick a word. We're going to talk about it. We're going to share life experiences. We're going to talk about nerdy stuff. We're going to talk about just whatever we feel needs to be talked about. We're not here to cause waves. We're just here to give you some words of encouragement and just maybe become your favorite podcast. Who knows?
And
Um,
hopefully our struggles and whatever the next word may be are things we go through and our stories and our experiences. Maybe there'll be a uh, just something to brighten your day up. Hopefully, it'll
yeah,
bring a smile to you.
maybe you're going through something bad, and we tell you that we went through something worse.
Maybe you're like, man, I don't even
but
want to make an example of that.
but if you enjoy being here with us, join us for the next one, and then the one
Absolutely.
after that, and then probably not that fourth one. It probably won't, it may not be that good, but then the
Yeah, I
fifth
might skip
one,
that one. I would skip that one.
yeah, you might. I mean, I'm not foreshadowing because this is literally the first one, but who knows? We might hit that slump. Oh, your fate. You're
I'm
blurry
fading,
now,
man.
Kevin.
Yeah, I'm
Your camera's
fading.
telling you need to quit.
It's thinking about focusing back up. Just thinking about it. Just thinking about it. Getting there. No, I'm giving up. We're at the end, guys. I'm not even gonna. I'm not even gonna fret. It's all good. Hope you guys
Good.
enjoyed it.
Yes, I hope you did too. This has been Nerds and Words.
Nerds and words. We'll see you in the next one.
See you in the next one.